Game of the year.
Most exciting game, I mean, maybe besides Seattle, I guess.
Besides Seattle. As everyone expected, down to the wire with the Jets. Two quarterbacks just slinging it. And that's what we had. This post-game analysis could have gone 40 different ways, but let's draw from the positive here. Terrific win for the Patriots, who were down 10, had to come back. Jets, we'll argue about or question whether or not any of this was intentional on their part, but certainly some really bad decision making and bad play calling on their last two possessions, even putting the Patriots in position to tie the game and then ultimately take the lead. They do. They win on a 51-yard Nick Folk field goal. Season is still kind of alive as the Patriots improve to 3-5. Jets go to 0-9. Into Trevor Lawrence land. So just Evan, your initial thoughts here.
Well, I thought that was the best game we've seen Cam Newton play as a Patriot so far. I know he threw for more yards in Seattle in week 2, but really just his process throughout this game, his ability to handle pressure, the downfield playmaking, the ability in the pocket to escape pressure, just the accuracy for the most part. I know he missed the one to Myers. I think we can nitpick with him every single week on a few, errant throws here and there. But overall, I know it's the Jets, but given what he's working with, Jacoby Myers, Damiere Byrd, Ryan Izzo, the backs, it's not a whole lot. And I thought that Cam really played out of his mind here tonight in a game that really he had no business playing that well. And we can get into some of it, like you said, the minutia of it. The Jets in particular, I thought defensively, I know they wanted to turn up the heat a little bit. That's Greg Williams' style to begin with, is to pressure the quarterback and blitz the quarterback. But instead, what they did on the back end was leave Jacoby Myers either running into zone coverage or man-to-man single coverage pretty much the entire game, and you have one guy that can beat you, really. It reminded me a lot of the Seattle game in that sense, just Myers in for Edelman. You have one guy that can beat you down the field, and yet they didn't really put any extra attention that I saw, at least on the broadcast, on that one receiver. So the Jets definitely did the Patriots some favors in this game.
They did, and I want to get into Myers in a little bit because – again, you're right. They didn't give him extra attention, but what he did today and what he's done so far since he's kind of been is nothing short of remarkable. But let's stick with Cam. Let's stick with Cam just to start here. Now, Josh McDaniels, there was reports prior to the game that we'd see some new wrinkles here with Cam. I didn't. What did you see?
Same exact thing that we all.
I didn't see a thing.
Yeah, definitely no new wrinkles, and I think the broadcast really got caught up on that point that McDaniels brought up and just continuously brought it up and was like, oh, where's the new thing? Oh, there's maybe a little bit something new. Your center, 21 personnel, play action off of that. That's the Patriots offense. It's been that way for 20 years. It's going to continue to be a lot of that. I think that last week against Buffalo, when they actually put Cam in the shotgun more, moved the pocket more, that game plan to me was more, outside the box than this one was. This was pretty standard stuff.
This was a very straightforward, right. There was nothing. And again, don't put it past the Patriots, for a little misdirection, subterfuge, whatever you have. But this looked just like any other Patriots game. The disturbing thing here was, again, the offense played relatively well, how close this game was. And I think obviously a lot of this had to do with just how poor the defense was here, allowing Joe Flacco and the Jets to just run it up and down the field. A really, really rough day for J.C. Jackson. Certainly Jason McCourty had a couple of plays there as well, with a pass interference and a touchdown as well. With Gilmore out again, you do have a massive trickle down here. You wonder if Gilmore's out there, whether they get away with any of that. Perryman's probably on lockdown, and very little of this happens. So you don't want to attribute it all to one player. I find it very hard to believe the Jets would have been able to move the ball up and down the field vertically the way they did if Gilmore was in this game.
Yeah, so the one thing that I think that JC Jackson can sometimes be susceptible to is guys beating him at the line of scrimmage and then not being able to recover once
Right.
he is beat at the line of scrimmage because he doesn't have great speed over the top. Guy like Gilmore, he's so fluid and he's so fast, and I know Gilmore is the best cornerback in the game, so it's not fair to compare.
But he can make up for it.
Right. So if he gets beat at the line of scrimmage, he flips his hips, he turns and runs and gets on his horse and is able to get back into play. But without that sort of skill against a guy like Perryman, who can really beat you over the top and has some serious speed, if you lose at the line of scrimmage against that type of guy as JC Jackson, it's really difficult to recover. So the one thing I thought was surprising out of JC in this performance was how poor his technique was on both of those plays, both of the touchdowns that he allowed. The second one, I don't think I've ever seen JC get off balance like that and just fall over.
When he slipped, right?
Yeah, that's just not really typically anything that we see out of him. But again, he's the type of corner that wants to smother you at the line of scrimmage before you even get into your route. He wants to get his hands on you. He wants to be physical. He can mirror it with the best of them on the outside. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that as an inside job. And I think that's where you sort of separate the goods from the greats. Stephon Gilmore, he can move inside and outside very easily and be able to make those plays from either alignment, whereas J.C. Jackson's had some trouble moving into the slot and defending guys in the middle of the field versus just covering them out there on the boundary.
Yeah. Obviously, JC atoned for it to some degree with that, the Willie Mays interception there, which was huge, which they needed to get back in the game. And again, just baffling play calling and decision making by the Jets there, where if they run some clock, they can really make things difficult. And just to throw it up there like that again, maybe got a little cocky. They'd had so much success going downfield, they went for a kill shot. Again, some people will argue that there might be some play calling behind the scenes and some.
Somebody... I actually didn't hate the decision to throw the ball down the field. I mean, you're doing it successfully all game. And the one thing that, the analytics crowd will definitely tell you is the worst thing that you can do there is get super conservative and just run it on 1st and 2nd down and put yourself in 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 9. Now, granted, the Patriots run defense might have given up more than just a couple of yards on 1st and 2nd down, but that's really what the defense is keying on. So I don't mind the opportunity to go down the field. I actually kind of thought, looking at it on the broadcast, it was sort of a busted coverage by the Patriots, and that was the decision to throw the ball down to the deep post, I think, was more the questionable thing than necessarily taking a shot there. It looked like it was JC sort of thought it was an inverted cover too, but Devin McCourty didn't actually take the flat. So the tight end was wide open on the flat. They pointed that out in the broadcast. That's one of those plays where if you're Joe Flacco, you have to see that two guys are converging on the post and there's a wide open guy in the flat, and you just kind of take what the defense gives you. So he definitely got greedy and went to the well a little bit, one too many times. But as the play caller, I think you're hopeful that he sees that the post is covered and works his way to the tight end in the flat and just takes the easy throw.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm sending out a link here to our followers just in case you are missing it, but we are live. It's the Patriots postgame show. And we're going to be here talking for a little bit. We'll try to take some comments. We'll see, Evan. Have you taken a peek so far? Are people relieved? Are they angry?
I haven't seen a ton of comments about that. I see a lot of comments about N'Keal Harry versus Jacoby Myers, which it's just weird to me that we have to make that comparison.
It is, though. I can't. I think it's natural, Evan. I get it. It's just really hard for every single thing that Myers does to not be somewhat of a referendum on Harry. And it's not because of any reason other than, and again, this is what I wanted to get into. You watch Harry struggle to do the littlest things, and you're looking for that glimmer of hope from him through a year and a half just to see I get it. That's what he does. And you haven't seen it at all. And again, we've made some defense of him, when he probably didn't deserve it, okay, he's starting to make some strides and this and that. And Jacoby Myers just comes out of, mothballs, and he's not just making plays. He's open by 5 and 6. He's open by a mile every time he's throwing the ball. I mean, again, this is stuff that I'm sure you're seeing on the film. I don't know what the coverage is on him in this game. Again, we can't see it from the broadcast angle, but I mean, he is just running free every single time you see him and Cam deliver the ball. He's clear of his guy by several yards. And this is a guy, again, who ran the second slowest 40 time in the 2019 draft class coming out of college. And he's always open. He's 7'11".
Yeah, so the one guy that when I watch Jakobi Meyers at the intermediate level, I'm not necessarily talking about the shiftiness at on the jerk routes and the option routes and on the short part of the field. I just watch Jakobi and I watch him at the top of the route and I watch his ability to find zone coverage. And it's clear to me that him and Julian Edelman have to be close behind the scenes. And maybe that's sort of an underrated kind of relationship that we haven't talked about because no one's really asked either guy, or either guy hasn't really come out and said it. But the way that Meyers works at the top of his route, the way that he kind of leans into the coverage and then breaks his routes off, the way that he sets DBs up for his route breaks, the way he finds soft spots in zone coverage at that level of the field, all those types of things just are so Edelman-like that it's hard for me to believe that Jakobi Meyers isn't just sitting there in practice or in game film review and watching Jakobi Meyers or watching Edelman over the years and just taking notes, right? What is he doing? How is he getting open?
Right.
That type of technique at the top of the route and the way that he's been able to find the soft spots in zone, like on that last play that set up the field goal, that's just a deep in cut against zone coverage, right? The Jets are backing off in zone. He's just going to run 12 yards and out and in, just deep in cut. And those types of routes and that type of setup. And I think the thing that's crazy to me is that he makes defensive backs somehow respect his speed, even though he doesn't have speed. So he'll run a route and he'll vertically release down the field and he'll get guys to backpedal. And I'm just thinking to myself, watching the quarters backpedal, why are you backpedaling? He's not going to run by you. And even if he does try to run by you, you're going to be able to recover as an NFL DB. But his technique is what it is, that it's so hard to tell where is he going to do. Is he going to stop down? Is he going to break in? Is he going to break out? And there's so many options off that branch that it's just too difficult to stop.
I almost keep waiting for him to turn into a pumpkin in that regard. Like, you think, okay, people will start game planning, watch enough film and be like, oh, just defend him this way. Why are you defending him that way? And then it's all going to go away. But then he has a game like this where, again, he's just, you would have no idea that this guy was, he has the pedigree that he has, because he looked like the most dynamic playmaker on the field for either side. It's amazing. I think what people want to know now is, did the Patriots, and again, you saw flashes his rookie year, and it's like, oh, this is a nice little thing, but you're not counting on him among, your assets when you're looking at, because right now, here's where we kind of are with the Patriots. Like, it's nice. They're 3-5. You could feel that maybe the season is on life support right now. You had to get this win. You did pencil it in as a win. If you lost it, you'd be, but I mean, this is asset management at this point. What do you have going forward? And Jakobi Meyers, I don't even think in the weeks leading up to this game, people would have said, oh yeah, we've got Meyers coming back next year. Now you start to wonder, like, is this a thing? Is Jakobi Meyers actually someone who's going to be a staple of this offense? Is he the next Edelman, as you pointed out, a real valuable possession receiver that other teams are going to have to game plan for? And that's, if you're a Patriots fan, somewhat exciting, because it is something that they've always had, from Welker to Edelman to whatever. And if Meyers is able to step in and be, I mean, even a fraction of what we saw today, that's certainly something.
Yeah, I think that the scariest part for defenses, I know it's crazy to say the scariest part about Jakobi Meyers, but the scariest part truly is if they can get somebody that can actually win over the top of the defense and clear out some space for Meyers to work at that intermediate level. Now we're really cooking with gas. So if they can get into the draft and they can get a true burner on the outside that can take the top off and kind of push that coverage down the field and give Meyers even more space in the middle of the field to operate, then you really think that there's going to be some real production out of him moving forward. This 169 yards, 12 receptions. I know Edelman had a big game in week 2 against Seattle. I can't really think of another game that, other than maybe that game in the last 2 years, where a Patriots wide receiver played as well as Jakobi Meyers did tonight. That was as good of a game for a Pats wideout I've seen for the last 2 years. Now, there's one nitpick thing I do want to get on him. He's got to learn how to create after the catch a little bit better. And he had that one play where he was open at the sticks and he kind of reversed field and went backwards instead of forwards. And he ended up giving up the first down. Somebody will teach him how to drop step there and just get right up the field.
He had one earlier in the game where it actually gained enough yards, almost the same exact setup where he did take one step back and 2 steps forward and got the first down. I think he probably had that in his head there. Later in that late game scenario, and he cost them, and that's what set up the 4th down, right?
Right, yeah. So that's the only nitpick I would have for him, and honestly, I'm sure that's something that they can coach into him. As soon as he is able to catch that ball, and instead of false stepping back up the field and just get right up field and get right into yak mode, he's going to be able to pick up some more yards after the catch as well and tack on to some of these catches, because his technique at the top of the route, his hands too, and his ability, his ball skills just in general to go down and catch low throws. I mean, this was a complete clinic by Jacoby Myers against a bad secondary and a bad defense, no doubt, but this was definitely as promising of a performance from a young Patriots wide receiver as we've seen in quite some time.
And you said if they had somebody there to kind of take the top off a little bit, Metcalf and Myers combo would look pretty good right now.
How about Myers and Jalen Waddle? Maybe that's where they end up going.
Yeah, or how about just Metcalf?
I mean, he's in Seattle, so he's not.
Just period. What if it was that? So a couple other things to discuss, and again, Myers was certainly the revelation here. Damian Harris got things going a good bit here, but he got his clock clean there. They said chest injury, and again, he ran hard. The Patriots as a whole ran well. Rex Burkhead played a terrific game, I thought, as well. And James White, we'll get into White a little bit too. I don't know if it looks to you like he's lost a step there. There's something missing from White right now. But Harris and Burkhead were both solid. Harris ran hard, and then just ran into a brick wall, and he just looked like he got folded in half. They called it a chest. I worry about collarbone, clavicle, something there. I don't really know, but he looked like he was like it was a bone rattling hit there. You hope it was just a bell rung scenario, but just your thoughts on Harris and just kind of hoping that nothing too bad happened there.
Yeah, the yards after contact are always nice, right? He's got that ability where it looks like he's going to probably get 3 or 4 yards, and he takes 3 or 4 yards and turns it into 10 or 12, and that's always a good thing. And look, I think with the running game, the frustration for me is, look, we know the Patriots can run the ball. We've seen them run the ball all year. They can definitely be effective in the ground game, but in a game like this where Cam is playing out of his mind, Jacoby Myers is playing out of his mind, and they're throwing the ball all over the yard against this Jets defense. The Jets really didn't have an answer for them through the air. The conservative play calling continues to haunt the Patriots by Josh McDaniels.
You were screaming for them to throw the ball on Twitter.
Second down run. It's just, and then at the end of the game, I mean, were they playing for overtime at first? Because they're running draws and running back screens with 50 seconds left, 40 seconds left to kick the field goal. If you're able to be a little bit more aggressive there, then maybe it's not a 51-yard.
It was the turnover. I mean, and look,
they were threatened by the turnover. I agree. Yeah, they were.
I mean, what Cam did on first down, when the pressure came and he does this little flip, I mean, that was terrifying as well. Not to nitpick on Cam too much, but also that play near the goal line when they went in for the tying score and his first run attempt and he sticks the ball out there again. It's just like, what are you doing, buddy?
Yeah.
So a couple times a little loose with the football, they got away with it there. But yeah, you're right. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. We've talked about this team. The identity's supposed to be running the ball, but then when you watch them running the ball, you're like, just start throwing the freaking ball.
Well, it's because everybody's gearing up to defend the run. Nobody's afraid of these receivers. Nobody thinks that they can throw the ball down the field. No. Well, guess what? When you're only putting 4 guys or 5 guys into coverage in every single play because everyone is keying on the run, there's still NFL receivers out there, and there's a lot of space, and you're able to throw the ball effectively, especially if you can protect the quarterback. So that's the biggest thing to me is that in 2 weeks in a row. I think the Patriots should have beaten the Bills last week too, and they probably could have beaten Buffalo if they were a little bit more aggressive in the first half than they were. The way they called the game in the second half against the Bills should have been all 4 quarters in Buffalo, and maybe you have a completely different game. Similar to this game, it's just so conservative sometimes that the offense was producing. The offense is really moving the football and it's producing points. But in time and time again, McDaniels is getting them into third and long situations. And what are you supposed to do then when you're the type of offense that they are? They're not a precision. Okay, it's 3rd and 8. We got 5 eligible. Where are we going on this play? It's not really their game. So it's frustrating to watch them have to dig themselves out of these holes. And a lot of the time it's a result of the play calling being so conservative that they're even down in the first place.
Okay, Evan, we got a sponsor here, so I gotta give a little love here. Everyone loves this sponsor. It's Manscaped. Okay, so this is what we have here, and we want you guys to listen because our sponsor here, and I have to find the read, is Manscaped, and you can see there's a promo code. You can get some of your products free. So let's talk about some of them. We've got the new lawnmower 3.0 trimmer. It's a must. Waterproof, advanced skin-safe technology, reduces nicks and cuts. One step further, Manscaped released the Weed Whacker. That's the ear, nose, and hair trimmer. You can get your hands on that. Has proprietary skin-safe technology. Helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs. Performance package also includes the Crop Preserver, which is deodorant for down below, and the Crop Reviver. Okay, you kind of figure out what that is. Smelly feet, foot duster, smell good everywhere. There's cologne by Manscaped, clean and fresh scent. On top of that, there's a shed travel bag to carry all of your goods. And as you can see here on the screen, all you need to do to get your hands on all of these fine products, 20% off, free shipping. You just go to manscaped.com, use the code PRESSPASS20. That's once again, manscaped.com. Code PRESSPASS20 for 20% off and free shipping. And we are required to say that your balls and your body will thank you. We're going to be reading that all week.
Can't wait.
That's it. You're going to have to read some of that too. But man, that's what Manscaped likes it. Okay. And the people know what Manscaped is. So that's it. Let's get back to the game again. Evan, other thoughts here. And again, catching people up. I don't think if you're watching now that you don't know what happened, but again, 51-yard field goal by Nick Folk to win it. Patriots rally from a 10-point deficit to win the game with no time left on the clock. We've talked about Cam Newton. We've talked about Jacoby Myers, the run game, some holes on the defense. Other thoughts here just on what we saw tonight.
Well, I just think that there's a lot of comments, and I know a lot of people on Twitter are maybe a little bit frustrated that the Patriots actually won this game and aren't in full-on tank mode. And I just want to say that, look, they're going to probably lose a bunch of games down the stretch here, but they just barely escaped a win against the Jets, who were 0-8. I'm sure they're going to lose more games, guys. And honestly, it's nice to just get a win every once in a while. And if you're playing the Jets, even if you're a team that's technically tanking, you don't want to lose to the Jets. I mean, you have some pride, right? Have some dignity. Have a bar being set within the organization that, yeah, this is a rebuilding year. This is a new process. This isn't, what we're used to here. But tanking and purposely losing games to inferior teams is not the way to go. That's not how to build a culture. That's not how to move this team forward. So if you're in that school of thought, I get it's a joke. I get it's funny for people to say, oh, they should have thrown the game. They should have tanked. If you think that they should have purposely lost this game or shouldn't be excited that they actually won a game, let's talk again in 8 weeks when they don't win another game this year, right? Because that's honestly, I'm just saying, we can't ignore the fact that they just almost lost a game to the New York Jets. They were clearly the worst team in football, and they barely squeaked this one out. And I just feel like next week against Baltimore is probably going to be a major wake-up call that this was the Jets, and that's not how good it's going to look every week. So just take the wins where you can get them, honestly, and stop talking about, they should have thrown this game. Well, now we can't get Trevor Lawrence. You want to have some form of respectability.
It's not throwing the game as much as the things that we've talked about, Evan, which is, what are you doing? Are you going for it or not going for it? If you're not, you want to see more.
You're not going for it, but you're also not completely losing
You're
any
not.
semblance of respectability, and
You're
you're not
not.
going to lose to the Jets.
And that's a problem, is you have too many people on this roster who would be disrespectful to do that too. And you think they could have shown their hand a little bit if they were full-scale sellers at the deadline. They weren't. But again, now you have this push and pull between whether there's some ego involved trying to win games down the stretch here and make it look respectable, get the team to around 500 and say, not bad with this group. But again, you're stuck in the middle of the draft here, and I think that's what people don't want. I mean, a fan base here looks at the Patriots as you make it to the AFC Championship game and have a coin flip shot to play in the Super Bowl, or the season is a bust, okay?
Right.
And you're not going to get into the playoffs. You're not going to upset anybody here. So the worst place you want to be is drafting 17, 18, 16, 17, 18. So I get that mentality. But what we've talked about wanting to see what you have in the shed right now. And again, I'm going to put up this question right here. Did anyone see Uche or Jennings play tonight? And again, we know that they started a practice squad linebacker over these guys, Terez Hall. From a snap count perspective, I'm not sure how much these guys saw the field at all tonight. Were you?
Yeah, so Josh Uche played one snap. PFF actually said he played 0. I saw Ben Volen, who I think has access to like the NFL, update up to the minute snap count tracker. He said that he played 1. That was, to me, the most disappointing part of the entire game, was that they felt better. And Terez Hall's actually, he had a nice camp, and I'm sure he practices well and all that kind of stuff. And he's a pretty smart player, and he's physical. I mean, we saw it out there tonight. He can be a very physical downhill player, and he's pretty fast. But at the same time, that's probably the most disappointing part of this game for me, was that I really thought that we were going to see an unlocked Josh Uche, somebody that could come in and add something, not just for this game, but potentially build something for the future and the rest of the season, so that maybe they could get away from Juwan Bentley a little bit and sort of spell him with other guys. Now, maybe Terez Hall is that guy that they're thinking of now, is going to take on some of those snaps from Bentley, even when Bentley is healthy. But that was, to me, the biggest upset, thing that was most upsetting to me, was that we didn't get to see a Josh Uche. We really didn't see a Kyle Duggar all that much out there tonight. And I was really hoping that we were going to see a little bit more out of both of those guys.
Right. So again, and there's a fair amount of frustration here, which is, again, that's kind of what you're watching for. You want to see whether you have something. And again, Dalton Keene was out again, knee injury. We know that Devin Asiasi is on the injured list right now, so he won't be around for a couple of weeks. And so again, you're just not seeing a lot from some of your younger players.
And I honestly don't think that it's an indictment necessarily on the talent of the players. I think that this is more about Bill holding them back from a mental standpoint than anything else. I have seen enough out of Kyle Duggar this season to say, okay, he could have a role on this team and he could play snaps on this team. But I think what's happening is that Bill just doesn't think that those guys are mentally ready to take on larger roles and expand the roles. And I just think that he's trying to kind of ease them into it. And maybe in a lot of ways, from all the comments that we've heard from Belichick this year about how hard of a year it is for rookies and how difficult it's been for them without a preseason, without really having a training camp, maybe he's just saying that this is sort of a lost year, a redshirt year for most of these rookie guys. And next year is really when they're hoping to get something out of this class.
We've seen it. I mean, look, and after watching very uninspired efforts by Sony Michel, for a lot of last season, and knowing that Damian Harris is just sitting there and wondering, like, can we take this thing out of the garage and see what it's got? And they just wouldn't do it, to the point where people started to question, like, is Damian Harris a bust? Like, he's not good enough to see the field and get a couple of runs. And then the first act, and then in camp, everyone has him as the absolute offensive all-star of camp. If he didn't get hurt, he might have won the job outright coming out of training camp to start the year. And as soon as he came off and was ready to start playing, he immediately took the reins. So again, they knew they had something, but this is just to chill people out wondering where these guys are. It does seem to jive with what the Patriots tend to do.
I'm telling you, this is more about Bill, the coach, and his reluctance to play younger players, and it has anything to do with the talent level of their rookie class. Because I'm not saying the rookie class is all going to be Hall of Famers, but we don't even know what the rookie class is going to be because he hasn't really let them play. So I couldn't believe it when we got out there in the first quarter and Terez Hall, 59, was out there over Uche. I mean, that was just or Jennings for that matter, who's been playing a decent amount anyway. So both of those things were absolutely shocking to me.
Well, I just put a comment on the screen here, and the reason I did it isn't so we can talk about Jarrett Stidham playing over Cam Newton. We've talked about that a bit, but before the game, there was an interesting nugget from Tom Curran that I know you commented on about how the Patriots really, really, really soured on Stidham in July, when there was a vibe that he wasn't really putting in the effort they were looking for a guy who should have been fighting for a job. And we heard reports about that in the summer, that he didn't have quite the offseason the Patriots were hoping for. This was a little bit more pointed and direct to kind of let you know what the Patriots might be thinking. Again, Tommy Curran, NBC Sports Boston, obviously, a plugged-in guy in the know here and doesn't just throw stuff against the wall to see if it sticks. This, to me, sounds like it's something that could be real, which is not only that they don't think Stidham is necessarily going to do anything that Cam isn't, but you wonder whether they think Stidham might not be anything other than good enough to just be a backup right now. But the idea that, like, okay, we go with Cam here, give Stidham another year and he comes back, I don't know that that's what the Patriots are thinking here. I think if you're thinking long-term quarterback, I don't think they play for the Patriots right now.
I think we're looking at it all wrong, honestly, in terms of just, I don't think the team is there yet. I think the fan base is there yet, where we're already looking to April and we're already looking on to the next thing and see that this team is flawed and isn't good. I honestly don't think the team is there yet. I'm sure that Bill Belichick and those guys have those types of conversations every once in a while from a big picture standpoint. But in terms of what's going on this year right now, they're focused on the Jets. Tomorrow morning, they'll wake up and they'll focus on the Baltimore Ravens, and all this talk about next year and the draft next year and finding out what we have with Stidham. I think that that's a lot of things that we talk about as media and we talk about as fan bases.
But that's not how they operate.
That's not how they're operating. And I think that's the thing with me with trying to win this game tonight. Just that's what a good football team does. That's what a respectable organization does. You go out there and you put together a professional effort. You play through the fourth quarter. You play through the final whistle, and you try to win a football game. And if you lose the game, then you lose the game. But if you have to go out there and try to win the game. And I know people, it bugs me out because I love football so much and I don't want to talk about the draft yet. I know everybody keeps on asking me, what quarterbacks do you like in the draft and who should the Patriots pick and all this kind of stuff. We're getting way ahead of ourselves. We don't even know where the Patriots are going to be even remotely in the draft order right now. They were 8th coming into the night. Now they're probably going to be something like 11th or 12th because they won this game. It's just a long way to go until we get there.
And I agree. I just don't think the Patriots are here to tank. It's just they're not. They're going to play every single week, trying to put the best effort forward and get wins, and that's what they did tonight. The scary thing about this team is this actually wasn't a bad effort. I mean, they had a couple of defensive breakdowns. It was a pretty clean offensive game. It's their first game all year, Evan, I believe, without a turnover.
Yeah. No turnovers. It was a clean game for them offensively.
Cam Newton was extremely accurate, and they were efficient, and the receivers got open, and there was a lot of good things that happened here, and they went toe-to-toe with by far the worst team in football and had to squeak it out coming from behind by 10 points. And so while certainly we can take some pleasure in the victory, that's just crazy to me that this was actually the Patriots' best effort. I mean, certainly not on defense, but they had to put everything they had into just barely squeaking this game out. This tells you where this team is.
Yeah, and that's why I keep on saying to everybody that's talking about tanking and why did we win this game.
The losses are going to come organically,
the losses are
people.
Going to pile up. Trust me, you're playing Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens next week. If you can barely beat the Jets, then you're going to get the doors blown off of you unless they fix a lot of things quickly in a hurry in that front seven defensively by the Baltimore Ravens. So don't worry, they'll lose a lot of games. I mean, they're going to go. Look, what are they? They're 3-5 now. I think realistically, we're talking about a 6-10, 5-11, maybe 7-9 type football team if they're lucky. It's not. They're going to lose some games, and they're going to be in a good position with a decent pick going into next year's draft. I really don't have any doubt about that. And there is a respect level. There's a compete level. There's just a professional level that you want to have as a team where you don't just go out there and throw up duds against an 0-8 football team. You can't lose those types of games, regardless of what your end goal is in the draft next year or whatever.
Yeah, and again, you have to account for the level of pride in that locker room. And again, I'm just watching some of the post-game stream in here, and we'll jump into that a little later. All of their breakout rooms. The Patriots are pretty psyched about this win,
as they should be. They lost 4 games in a row. A couple of them are gut punches. This is definitely throughout all the things that this team has been through. You're definitely going to be able to lose some games later. They're not going to go 4-12. Just stop it. They're going to win some more games, but they're going to lose plenty of games.
Yeah. And that's my thing.
They're going to lose plenty of games.
That's my thing is, my only advice to the fan would be, if you're at home, you can't control the outcome anyway. So what do you want? You want to see them win or you want to see them lose?
Right.
Just take pleasure in when they do win, because as you said, they're not always going to come. I'm telling you, the people here who want to tank, you're going to enjoy this one, because you're going to feel a lot worse if they lose by 35 points to the Ravens next week. That's going to feel a lot lower than like, oh, geez, I wish we'd lost to have 2 draft picks better in April. That's nobody really wants that. And again, it's going to be a rough rest of the season there. Any closing thoughts here? And again, you got to say good win for the Pats. Closing thoughts here before we start looking ahead to Baltimore and what's going to happen there.
Well, I think the biggest thing is I see a ton of comments here about N'Keal Harry and what does this mean for him going forward. I think that we're looking way too much into that as this comparison between N'Keal Harry and Jacoby Myers. They can be 2 different people and they can play at the same time on the football field. It's not you're allowed to play more than one wide receiver at a time, right? So I think the way that N'Keal Harry fits is if you watch the last couple of games, the last 2 weeks, you really feel like they're missing that big body target, somebody that can actually go up and catch a jump ball or box a guy out at the catch point and win a tough contested battle like that. And that's where N'Keal Harry fits in. Hopefully moving forward, we're not going to have a situation where, N'Keal Harry is doing the timing stuff and he's doing the precision route running and all that kind of thing. Let Damiere Byrd, let Jacoby Myers and those guys worry about that. And obviously Edelman, if he does come back, and let N'Keal just be N'Keal. Let him get up the field, back shoulders, high point fades, red zone work. That's the type of stuff they could actually really use out of him, because they don't have a tight end. They don't have another big-bodied wide receiver. So I think him, coupled with Isaiah Ford also, who will play next week against Baltimore, those 2 guys can at least battle a little bit. And I think that's a good thing for the Patriots, because right now they got a bunch of finesse guys. Damiere Byrd, Jacoby, those guys are good players. Jacoby's a really good player maybe, but he's definitely more of a finesse guy. So they need to be able to have some sort of a contested catch guy somewhere in their offense. And I think N'Keal can carve out a role like that, even if he's not the stud that everybody is hoping for, or he's a bust of a pick or whatever you want to call it. There's definitely a role on this team for him, and there's no reason to, ship him out of town or anything like that.
No, I think the frustration with N'Keal, I don't know that anyone's holding out.
I get the frustration with N'Keal. I totally get it.
No, I don't think anyone's holding out for him to be a star anymore.
Right.
You're just looking. I think people at this point, Evan, would be happy with what you had mentioned, which is a more specialized role, which if N'Keal was just a red zone beast or a back shoulder fade guy, or, whatever it is that you're doing there, and was able to come up with those plays when you needed them, and you have other people work in the middle of the field and doing what they do well, and the offense is able to move the ball, I think you're fine. I don't think anybody would be bummed out to have a very democratic approach to the offense where the ball is distributed equally. I just think when they were clearly hurting at receiver and looking to him to step up and make plays, he couldn't even get a target. And that's where it's like you're starting to think, like, what is this guy even doing here? And I think that was the frustration there, whichever game that was, where he didn't have a target until the fourth quarter, and they basically had two viable receivers on the field all game long. It's games like that that frustrate the hell out of people. I think if he did come back and you do have more defined roles and Myers is playing, see if Edelman returns or if Isaiah Ford does anything, I think let's see where Nikhil slides in there if he comes back. And again, still dealing with that concussion. He didn't practice all week. He didn't play. So it's not a certainty that we're going to see him against Baltimore this week.
I think it's the biggest thing with Nikhil. And I'm not saying that he would be a Hall of Fame receiver if he was on a different team or in a different role, but if they can really specialize that role and only ask him to do things that he's good at doing, and if he's not going to be, kind of the focal point of a progression, he's not going to be the first or second read in a progression, then at least let him clear out coverage or something like that over the top. Don't be asking him to run these precise option route style, run 8 yards and cut off leverage and stuff. Don't ask him to do that because it's obviously not a strength of his. So just let Nikhil be Nikhil, and that skill set that he would bring to the table as a physical downfield receiver that can win jump balls is going to be really, really useful for them.
All right. Well, again, I know one thing has nothing to do with the other, but I do feel that every single time Jakobi Meyers does something good for the rest of his life, he's going to be compared to N'Keal Harry.
Why? I just don't get it. Like, why can't they're two individual separate people. They can exist at the same time on the same field. It doesn't have to be one or the other. They can have both, or they can have neither, or they can have one or the other. I think the biggest misconception to me about talent evaluation, and as a Patriots fans, we should know this better than anybody else. It does not matter when you were drafted, where you went to college, if you were undrafted, if you were a first round pick. If you can play, you can play. And it just doesn't matter.
I know, Evan, but it's again, you
make this argument, then Tom Brady would be, never be a thing.
I know.
Jackson would never be a
But
thing.
That's not it. When the Patriots pass on all of these guys in the early rounds and they end up with your Jakobi Myerses, you say, okay, they did this because they think they can get talent later. But when you reach into your pocket and you spend for that sports car and it ends up being a lemon, I think that's the problem. And again, they did it.
It's a poor talent evaluation.
They did exactly what every Patriots fan wanted them to do. They addressed receiver in the first round. And we talked about this at our a couple of times last week, which is, they do hit it and quit it a little bit. They address it once and then not again. You're not always going to hit there. So, you'd like to see them go back to the well if they see another talented receiver up early in the first round in April, or even last year where there were opportunities and they traded down and out and there was players and playmakers there they could have had. But that's the thing. When you miss, and it's going to kill people because it's a missed opportunity, because you don't take stabs at that type of talent, and to see it go everywhere is just going to eat at you. Again, it's not franchise altering. Football's not that kind of game, and it's only that way with quarterback. But again, you're looking at, you look at that guy like Metcalf, which is always going to be the Harry comparison, who is one of the top 3 offensive weapons in football right now, and it just makes you want to just jump off a bridge. So I get it for where Patriots fans are coming from. They're not the only team to miss on a talent on a player. People miss all the time.
I just think I think we're beating a dead horse. I think we've beaten this dead horse for 2 straight years, and it's just no one's defending N'Keal.
No one is. I get it.
Time. Like, I'm just over it, guys. I'm just over it. Like, how much more do we want to talk about it? Yes, they passed on DK Metcalf. You know how many replies I get to tweets where people tell me, "Oh, but the Patriots passed on DK Metcalf." Like, if I had $1 for every single time somebody brought up that the Patriots drafted N'Keal Harry over DK Metcalf, I could quit CLNS and I never have to work a day in my life ever again. Like that's where we're at with this. And it's just, I would still work here because I love it. Don't worry. But I'm just saying, it's just, that's exactly where we're at with this, is that we say it all the time. And how many more times can we possibly say it for us to finally understand, yes, they didn't make the right pick. I get it. It's just, my God, is it painfully awful.
It's not, again, it's just not, I don't want to keep having the conversation. It isn't going anywhere. But again, rather than devolve into another N'Keal Harry bashing session, we'll wrap it. Last time, Patriots win. Good win here. Nick Folk, the hero, 51 yarder. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. 51 yarders, time expired. Patriots improved to 3-5. They've got Baltimore next week. Again, our sponsor, Manscaped, 20% off, free shipping with the code PressPass20 at manscaped.com. So check that out. We want these guys to return as a sponsor. It allows us to do more programming, bring it live to you, listen to your rants, drive Evan crazy. He loves it.
Do.
Yeah. Always do. And that's going to do it for this post-game show. Evan's got a ton more to do, obviously. We're going to jump in, listen to some of these post-game interviews. Please check out clnsmedia.com. Evan will have his 10 things we learned about this victory coming up later on tonight into the morning. And again, if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, Patriots Press Pass, you'll get alerts every time we go live. You'll have access to all of our video analysis. Evan will be breaking down the game. We'll have a ton of stuff tomorrow when Evan does a little bit deeper dive into what it is that we saw, and then we'll start previewing the Ravens as the week goes on. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us. For Evan, Lazar, John Zanis, we'll see you guys in very near future.